And on my dad's shortwave radio, it's my new friend, Joyce Marter. How are you?
I'm good, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm so happy that you're with us. I want to start off with this. You know, everybody thinks that people like you or the other guests that we have on, there's these people who have always been great with money, that you have some gene, Joyce, you know, that magically appeared and you just waved a magic wand and now you're helping everybody else to be like you. It was really refreshing to read that your finances at one point, like mine, were a flipping disaster. Just not good. Yeah.
Yeah. I think people see the tip of the iceberg and they don't realize all the suffering or the hard work that is behind that. And oftentimes we compare our insides to other people's outsides. We're imagining we're the only ones dealing with financial shame or struggle. And yes, I dealt with tremendous financial anxiety as an entrepreneur. When I started my business, Urban Balance, we ran into cash flow hell, where we had tons of money outstanding in insurance claims, and I had difficulty paying my staff and my rent, and had insomnia and panic attacks, and learned a lot. I don't know if you know that therapists, we specialize in our own issues.
Right. You actually, I didn't know that, but you say that at the beginning of your introduction, when you're hearing all these things that other people suffer from, and you're like, oh God, I think this is me. And you're kind of freaking out because you're like, how can I help other people when I've got some of these issues?
Yes, we're all works in progress, and we all unconsciously recreate what's familiar until we become aware and we choose something else. And so my journey as an entrepreneur has been one of learning a lot about my psychology of money. My father grew up in the Great Depression and was unemployed during much of my childhood during the automotive recession of the 80s. And I grew up with a lot of financial fear and anxiety that shaped my money script. And I became avoidant of dealing with money. And that cost me some financial pain. And I learned a lot of lessons that I want to share with others so that they don't do the same.
I feel like a lot of people that we've had, not a lot, but some people we have on in the past, you know, they talk about the money script. I think that's important, but I can feel our audience, they go, yeah, okay, the past, it's all this crap and I don't need to go back there. But I want to use you as an example, if you don't mind. And let's walk through from the very beginning, because your program has 12 steps. And today what I thought we'd do, if it's all right with you, is just cover step 1, which is abundance and getting to this place of abundance. And then if people like it from there, we'll let them get the book and go from there. But at the very least, we can give them something. You talk about how you get specifically what you ask for. And I love the beginning of the book where you talk about your professor at Northwestern says the average salary is $18,000. And I think you said that somebody, walk me through this, because you said somebody said that they were making 25,000. So you said, okay, I'm going to make 25. Walk me through that. Is that what happened?
Yeah. So when I started graduate school, my professor said, well, you certainly didn't go into this field for the money. And I was like, because I just signed 50,000 of student loans and I needed to support myself in Chicago. And I heard the starting salary was 18,000, but I heard of a student who had gotten 25. So I set that as my goal and I made exactly 25 at my first job. And I realized that sucked and was really hard. And so I decided that I needed to make 35. And
your first job, though, because I want people to get this. Your first job was a methadone clinic.
Yes. In downtown Chicago, I worked with HIV positive IV drug users who were in and out of the penitentiary, heroin addicted, worked on needle exchange vans, and never thought, I remember my dad being like, oh my gosh, this is not what I expected you to do after graduating from Northwestern. But it opened my eyes about the world and life. And I've worked with people across all different socioeconomic statuses and cultures, and it's given me a lot of wisdom, which I want to share with others.
Yeah. And I think there's actually some power. There's a little detour, Joyce, but I think there's some power in having some of these. I don't know that it's a quote bad job, but having this low paying job early on and a difficult job. Like I can imagine you coming home, not making hardly any money, and just the struggle emotionally I would have with dealing with what you deal with all day had to be tough.
It was tough, but I am mission driven and I do my work from my heart and soul. And so it was really meaningful to me. And I learned so many important first job skills. And I was promoted to a supervisor in that job. And so it was great learning. I made wonderful friends in that job. And we all have those stepping stones that we need to go through in life. And I feel like each job from there added more layers of awareness that helped me grow and develop.
Yeah. So you told yourself 25,000 wasn't enough. I need to make more than that. And you told yourself you needed 35,000. So what happened?
I made exactly that, but no more. And then a few years later, I started my private practice and I met with my buddy, Steve, for coffee. And he said, "Hey, Joyce, how much money do you want to make?" And I said, well, this was the mid 90s. I said, I'd really love to make $60,000 a year. And he said, ooh, 60? I want to make over 100. And I said, well, do you think that's possible? And he said, of course that's possible. And that year I made 60 and Steve made over 100. And I was like, am I setting my own ceilings with self-limiting beliefs? And he went on to win Shark Tank, was on Oprah's Favorite Things, has sold multiple businesses. So I started expanding my thoughts about money and welcoming abundance. So shifting from a scarcity mindset to opening myself up to greater creativity and courage and thinking bigger as an entrepreneur and knowing that I was deserving, like we all are. We're all innately deserving of greater prosperity, and it is available to us if we open our thoughts and our emotions and our behaviors to that.
That's so powerful. And the way that you did that, though, Steve goes on to make 100, you're making 60, you go to your therapist, which I think is important because I feel like, Joyce, as I was reading this, I feel like we all think we can do it by ourselves. And yet what I've learned over my career is that surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me, that have this outside view of me, that aren't as emotional about me maybe as I am, and my goals is really helpful. And it felt to me like the therapist was really how you were able to break through that.
Absolutely. And I'm such a mental health advocate. I think we can all benefit from therapy or counseling at different points in our lives. And I've struggled with anxiety. I was afraid it was going to keep me from becoming a therapist. But I think being in therapy has just transformed my whole life. And my therapist asked me, Joyce, what does money mean to you? What do you think of when I say the word money? And I said, I think of stress. And she said, well, no wonder you make it go away. So I had to shift my thinking about money to think about it as a resource to take care of myself and my loved ones and the world around me and to do greater good in the world, and that I was deserving of that resource. And that took a lot of work, but it really transformed my business. And from that time when I was in cash flow hell, I was able to rebuild it along with my team of supporters. Exactly as you said, that was my biggest pain point that I had, was that my ego and fear and pride kept me from seeking business and financial consultation that got me in a pickle financially. And once I was, on my knees and I needed that help and I was crying, thinking I was going to have to file business bankruptcy, I finally sought that consultation, and I'm so grateful to the advisors who told me that my business model did work. I just needed the proper lending and coaching. And along with my leadership team, we were able to turn the business around. And 7 years later, I was able to sell it for a 7-figure multiple. Starting
with $500 and $50,000 in student loans, $500 invested in the business, millions of dollars on the other side. And thank you, by the way, for walking through the early days and your struggles there, because I think going back to the beginning of this discussion, Joyce, I feel like this is where the money script fits, right? Because once you told yourself 25, then you told yourself 35, then you told yourself 60, then you went and got help. That's when you walk through your money script. And that's where your relationship with your dad came in. And you talk about your dad crying with money about money and you remembering that.
Yes, I remember it being really scary. I was about 8 years old. I remember it vividly, being in the living room, and it was summertime, and my dad was an executive who traveled a lot. So it was very unusual for him to be at home during the daytime during the week. And I said, Dad, I'm so happy that you're here. It's so nice to have you here. And he looked up and he had tears streaming down his face. And he was a big guy, 6'2", kind of an alpha male. And I remember being really scared that he was crying, and I could see shame. Even though I was so young, I remember viscerally feeling that what I felt was a happy thing, him being home, was deeply shameful and incredibly anxiety provoking for him. And it was because he had lost his job, which I didn't understand at the time.
Yeah, seems great to you. Horrible for him. It's funny because the first time I had somebody walk me through my story, it was actually not around my money. It was around eating. And I realized that I equate, and I think people are like this with money too. I equate fast food with love. And the reason is that my dad worked for General Motors, and we would go pick him up at lunchtime. And you know what we do, Joyce? We would go to this place called Dog and Suds and sit in the car. It's like a Sonic, old time Sonic. And we would have fast food as a family. And so I go to McDonald's today and I feel this lie that is this warm sense of love and being, until like 2 hours later when I feel shame and horrible that I actually fed my body that. But I'm sure you see this all the time. These people living this different thing, this different reality on the inside, and the shame around their money that they don't really, I think they need to let it go.
Well, my goodness, there's so much that you said there. And one interesting thing is the parallel between eating and finances. It is similar in terms of, there's a flow of what we're taking in and what we're expending, and you need to find a healthy balance. And it's our psychology that makes it difficult. Our emotions, like your emotions that you had tied to McDonald's, that's a belief system that therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy could help you rework that, to recognize that love was from the act of being together and not the fast food. Right. Itself, and to separate those things and empower yourself to make different choices. It's the same thing with money. It's not rocket science that we need to earn more than we spend and that we need to save and invest, but it's our psychology that makes it difficult. We self-sabotage because our emotions take over. And so there are skills that I teach in my book about how to develop peace and equanimity so that you can be grounded and you can reflect on your thinking about money and how that's shaping your financial reality.
I feel like that was the first step of abundance, the first half of chapter 1, where you're really just dealing with raising your expectations about what you really can get and manifesting that for yourself. But the second half, and you walked into this a little bit earlier, and I want to dive more into this. So now you have a business. On the surface, it looks successful. Cash flow now is not a problem, right? I mean, it is for the business, but for you personally, that you're in a different space, but the business isn't working out. And I had a pit in my stomach when you talk about your business partner leaving and how it was one of the worst times of your life. Walk me through what happened there.
So my business partner and I had been good friends, and we had shared office space together. We started the business together. We talked every day. We were friends for 10 years. We'd had the business for 7 years at this point. We were in that cash flow hell period. And I was on vacation, and she sent me an email saying that she just couldn't handle the stress of the business anymore, and that she was leaving. And she actually copied our entire staff and our accountant and attorney. And so many of our staff left because they were like, what the heck? The business is in bad financial shape. We need to go.
Yeah.
It's folding. It's a sinking ship. More than that, I felt like this was one of my best friends and partners in life. And it felt like the rug was pulled out from beneath me. She actually never came back to the office. It felt like the equivalent of a partner moving out in the middle of the night. I felt completely blindsided. And it was me not seeking business and financial consultation sooner that led to that. So I know I have a part in that, but it was devastating. I was grieving the loss of our friendship, which I would have filed bankruptcy 100 times over in order to keep that friendship. But she made a different choice, and that was really hurtful. It was really scary, but I had a huge shift in my mentality at that point. Instead of telling my staff, like, it's okay, guys, I've got this all figured out, it'll be okay, I said, I am so sorry. I've messed up and things aren't good and I need your help. And help came out of the woodwork. My staff had ideas. They loved the business. They cared about the business. They cared about me. And together, one step at a time, it was one day at a time, one bill at a time. I remember my accountant saying, yay, we paid the phone bill today, baby steps. But we made it through. And it taught me a lot of humility and that importance of seeking advice from others and a different way of leading that's allowing everyone to, more of conscious leadership, of having everyone share their gifts and talents and input, rather than me being kind of codependent in a sense and feeling overly responsible and taking on too much myself, trying to protect others. And that didn't serve any of us well.
Did you feel calmer then, or did you feel okay with not feeling okay?
That time was so life-changing for me because I certainly didn't feel calm. It was an anxiety-provoking time, but I felt the strength rise up in me that I didn't know that I had. Eleanor Roosevelt said, you don't know how strong a woman is. A woman is like a tea bag. You don't know how strong she is until you put her in hot water. And I didn't know until I went through that I could stand up. I could face my staff. I could face difficult situations, and I could do it on my own. I thought that I really needed a partner and a co-pilot, and it taught me to trust in myself in a whole new and different way. And that was a real growth experience that was very liberating.
Oh, wow. It's interesting. You're trusting in yourself, and yet you're reaching out to everybody and sharing more than you ever had. During that time, you opened up to your staff, but you also went and, like we talked about earlier, you became the dumbest person in the room and really got help from professionals. You talk about your accountant. That's one accountant, but you took it to another outside professional. I know you talked about your financial planner and about how you kind of have this team of smart people around you that helps you see abundance. Talk about that for a moment.
So I believe in having a personal and professional board of advisors. And my personal board of advisors might be like my therapist or my partner, my friends, my sister. My professional board of advisors would include my accountant, my attorney, my financial planner, my mentor and consultant. And I have sought so much coaching and consultation that has helped me grow and develop in every way in my profession. When writing my book, I had help with editing. I had help with writing. I had a narration coach before I did the Audible version of my book. I believe in seeking help from others, and it helps us learn and grow. And yes, my business broker, when it was time to sell the business, it was such a wonderful learning experience, and one about abundance as well, because I could have sold my business for $100,000 or $200,000, but I held my vision high. I knew it was worth millions. So I declined lower offers. I valued myself. I valued the business. When we put it on the market, we had 50 prospective buyers. We had 8 offers. And I chose the offer that was most aligned with my heart and the mission of the business. That also allowed me to invest and stay on as an investor so that I still had the opportunity to grow with the parent company. And I didn't take the offer with the most cash at hand, but I've gotten almost twice as much in investment returns since that sale.
But still, even without those investment returns, I'm just feeling now, Joyce, the first step on your program is abundance. And I'm feeling the abundance of your staff that stay with you, the abundance in the people that are around you. One thing, some of our audience, because it's ostensibly a financial show, they look at, these people you surround yourself with, and you know what they're thinking about. They're thinking about, well, that must have cost a lot of money, right? That must have cost you a lot. What do you say to people when they look at cost versus benefit when it comes to changing your life this way?
You have to invest in yourself. and invest in your learning and growth. And that's a wise investment. And so seeking that consultation, I mean, like, for example, my business broker took 15%. It wasn't 15%, some percent.
Yeah,
it was much
a bajillion dollars, though. It felt like at the time, I'm sure.
It felt like a bajillion dollars,
Yeah.
but he easily got me 4 times what I thought I would ever get for the business. So that was smart. And so sometimes you have to zoom out and look from a greater perspective and understand that that money invested can be really well spent. And so, yeah, I think abundance is about, I was thinking about this the other day. It's about, think about expanding your life and using all of yourself. Like, are you using all of your intellect, all of your creativity, all of your passion, all of your joy? Are you applying that in your life to the greatest extent possible? Or are you holding yourself back and making yourself small out of fear or some other belief systems that are limiting you? And I think there's some belief systems that having more money is selfish and greedy. My perspective is that when we have more, we can help more. So as my business grew, I was able to provide more jobs. I was able to provide pro bono counseling services and have student interns and give to charities.
I'm laughing as you're talking because I'm remembering a joke that you told in the book where you realize that just because your last name's Marter doesn't mean you need to be a martyr.
Exactly. My accountant confronted me and said, Joyce, you're not running a charity that's to employ therapists and give them their own private practices. And that was a little intervention that was really much needed and helpful.
I thought about the book Profit First. I don't know if you've read Profit First, but yeah. I thought about that. And really you changing around to that system that if you don't profit, nobody else profits. And so you've got to be stable first, like incredibly powerful. I want to end by asking you about a practice that you talk about. You give your money names and you talk about how in the early days, your money was penny. Later on, your money was prosperity. Is that something we should all do? Should we give our money a name?
Yes. And I'm so excited now that my book is out. I'm hearing back from people about what they've named their money. It's so much fun. It's a mindfulness practice. So imagining your financial life as if it were a person and you have a relationship with that person. And in the early days, Penny was somebody that I sort of abused and neglected. I was ashamed of her. I didn't talk about her with anyone. I expected a lot out of her without nurturing her. And today she's prosperity and she's a direct reflection of my own feeling of worth. And I value her. And so I take good care of her and I nurture her. My cute stepdaughter, who's 25 and a starving artist, said that she named her financial life Jeffrey and that he's a little sketchy and scammy and scrappy and disheveled. And then my other good friend said hers is Sally, and she's tons of fun, loves to shop and travel and decorate, and is wildly impractical, and then is paralyzed with financial fear and anxiety. So I think it provides some insight and can help us learn how to change our relationship with that person.
Yeah, it makes you honor it more, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. I should call mine board games because too much of my money goes to board games. But anyway, this is just step one, guys, in Joyce's book. The book is The Financial Mindset Fix, a mental fitness program for an abundant life. This is step 1 of 12. And if you want to take it further, if you want to go from there, Joyce, I guess the book's available everywhere, right?
Yes, it's on Amazon, in Barnes & Noble, Indie Books. It's everywhere. It's on Audible as well, Kindle. And I'm so excited. I can't wait to hear what people think about it.
You know, when I talk to authors, there's often a surprise that they had writing it. I mean, clearly you're at home with the system. You've coached people through the system so many times. But this process of writing a book, did you have a surprise along the way?
I found it so much fun. The way I set it up is I share in the beginning of the chapter a story of my own in hopes of making it normalizing and relatable. And then I share sort of a psychoeducational tutorial with fun client examples. And then I share exercises. And the exercises were really fun. And I'm happy to hear from people that that's what they're finding really valuable, because it's not like they're just learning this stuff, they're actually learning how to apply it to make a difference in their lives.
That's funny. We talked about the wheel on a recent show, and you've got the wheel showing up all the way through the book, which is fantastic, because we're just telling our audience that a lot top coaches use the wheel. Like, the wheel is just so great. Joyce, thanks for hanging out with us and talking about abundance. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, Joe.